Your Excellency Ambassador Albert Muchanga, AU Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Tourism, Industry, and Minerals, Excellencies, Ambassadors, heads of UN agencies, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Ndemna Derachu. It's so good to be back in Addis Ababa, the political capital of Africa, and good to see colleagues and friends. My name is Josephine Marialo Lumengo. I'm the Strategic Planning and Head of the UN Resident Coordinator's Office, Rwanda. I'll be your Program Director today. And I want to welcome you all to this sensitization meeting on the African Job Creation Forum. Today, you will meet the visionary leaders who are behind this initiative and the champions who are driving the initiative agenda. You'll also be invited to contribute your ideas in order to build an impactful platform for the benefit of all citizens across the continent. We have already shared the program, so I'll not go through the program again, but I will take you as I invite different speakers for the different session. So let me welcome the first speaker, Ato Nigusu Tilahun.
Welcome to Ethiopia. His Excellency Mr. Antonio Pedro, Executive Secretary, Your Excellency Ambassador Alberto Muchangu, AU Commissioner, Ambassador Hope Tumingu, Ambassador of Rwanda, dear ambassadors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by thanking the AA Trade Group for managing to have this pre-African Job Forum inauguration sensitization workshop. I truly appreciate the commitment and leadership you are showing. As you know, Africa is a continent with the highest concentration of young people. With the growing population of the continent, the number of young people is growing, which will make Africa to have the largest labor force by 2030. This brings both an opportunity and threat for us at the same time. If we leaders recognize this labor force as a capital and make an early and substantial investment on it, it will turn into an opportunity. If not, the opposite. The fact is that we are not establishing an economy that can absorb the labor force and make it a driver for prosperity. There is always a gap between the size of the labor force available and the capacity of our economy to absorb it. The gap will be getting bigger with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, climatic change, and the political unrests popping up now and then in the continent, unless we leaders take the commitment to work hard hand in hand. The quality of data on labor statistics at national levels is also very poor and needs to be improved so that we can appreciate which sectors are growing, which are declining, and which are stagnating in order to refocus our human capital development plans. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the government of Ethiopia has aggressively working to create job opportunities to the young people. We developed a national plan of action for job creation and commit ourselves to its implementation. As part of our effort, we undertook 2 national job summits where we provide actors in the labor market ecosystem a platform to come together, discuss the challenges and provide innovative solutions and celebrate successes. On these national job summits, we solicit inputs for policy making. We mobilize resources to support our job creation efforts. We praise best performing actors in the labor market and officially recognize the transition of micro, small, and medium enterprises, which are the engines of the job creation agendas. We benefit a lot from having such a platform, and we strongly believe that scaling up it to the continental level will give Africa the opportunity to develop a common vision towards its common challenge, that is youth unemployment and work collaboratively towards achieving one of the priority areas of Agenda 2063 and the Sustainable Development Goals, that is decent work. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, as we are aspiring and working to integrate our economies, we should integrate our effort towards job creation to our young people as well. Let us share experiences, plan and implement programs together, and celebrate our successes together. And the Continental Job Forum will be the only platform providing us that chance on an annual basis. As you know, the theme of the African Union this year is focusing on accelerating the implementation of African Continental Free Trade Market. Let us harness this emerging single market for 1.4 billion people in the continent to create abundant opportunities for all stakeholders, the private sector, civil society, and African governments, with priority given to the marginalized groups, namely the micro, small, and medium enterprises, women and youth-owned enterprises. Let all our development partners accompany us in the journey to drive digital and financial inclusion, which leads to sustaining development, double-digit growth that is inclusive of millions of jobs as we march in solidarity towards ending extreme poverty in Africa. As I conclude, the government of Ethiopia will be supporting this initiative, and I want to extend my wish to see every one of you in the inaugural of the Continental Job Forum from July 7 to 9, 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and we are all invited now, July. We hope to see each one of you and your constituency to the July Job Creation Summit. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, who is our host, but also champion of these initiatives. Thank you very much for hosting us.
Thank you, Josephine. Welcome back to ECA. He's one of our in the diaspora. He's an ECA former staff member. So, His Excellency Ato Negusu Tilahun, State Minister, Minister of Labor and Skills of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Her Excellency Ambassador Hope Tumukundi, Ambassador of the Republic of Rwanda to the African Union and ECA, His Excellency Albert Muchanga, African Union Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Tourism, Industry and Minerals, Mr. Mulwalum Sihum, Chief Executive Officer, AE Trade Group, my good friend, Treasurer, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here today to share my thoughts on the importance of the forthcoming Africa Job Creation Forum, to be held under the theme of accelerating job creation, digital and financial inclusion in the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Africa's population is growing faster than the continent's capacity to create decent jobs. Today, Africa accounts for 1.4 billion people and is projected to grow to 2.9 billion in 2050. By 2035, Africa's working age population is expected to grow to 450 million, about by 70%. Yet, the continent's economies, without significant policy reforms, will likely produce only 100 million new jobs. If not addressed, this can be a time bomb. As such, we need fit-for-purpose strategies to generate sustainable and decent jobs on the continent to match the rapidly growing population. Sustainable solutions lie in well-targeted capital investments, physical and human, and policies fostering competitiveness and productivity to empower Africa's large and young workforce to transform the continent for the better. In the short term, sector-specific reforms focusing on labor-intensive sectors such as agribusiness, construction, and micro-enterprises, as well as regional integration efforts, have the potential to spur rapid job growth. Appropriate social policies aimed at revamping the social contract and contributing to using all available resources can also serve as a catalyst to create jobs and reduce poverty and inequality. Moreover, short-term measures will have to be complemented by long-term reforms that focus on strengthening institutions, improving infrastructure, accelerating technology adoption, and matching skills and jobs. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to highlight 4 important and interlinked pathways that hold great potential for job creation on the continent. First, the African Continental Free Trade Area can be Africa's Marshall Plan to foster development and boost job creation. ECA's research shows that the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area would result in a continental gross domestic product that is $55 billion higher than without the AFCFTA by 2045. Within Africa, the implementation and the operationalization of the AFCFTA would improve labor mobility across national borders, encouraging workers to upgrade their skills and move to more productive jobs. One industry set to benefit is the creative and cultural industry, which has the potential to create millions of jobs for the youth on the continent. To unleash this potential, it is imperative that the governments increase investment efforts in the industry and encourage the private sector to do the same. This brings me to the second pathway, digital inclusion and trade. Africa's digital trade has the promise to reach 180 billion by 2025 and 712 billion by 2050. But this growth is dependent on a combination of factors, including increased access to faster and better quality internet connectivity, bridging all forms of digital divides, facilitating a growing tech pool, and nurturing a vibrant startup ecosystem. We need effective partnerships and commitments to scale up existing initiatives towards digital inclusion and facilitating digital trade, and to develop and launch others on the continent to amplify the development impact. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the third pathway is on leveraging green market opportunities, including through the development of regional green value chains to generate new and sustained jobs on the continent. Initiatives such as the DRC-Zambia battery and electric vehicle value chain and the Great Blue Wall Initiative can be game changers in terms of jobs creation and unlocking additional financing on the continents. Lastly, there's an urgency to harness the continent's demographic dividend to drive Africa's transformation agenda. Many African countries have committed to integrating population dynamics into development planning at national and subnational levels, and development demographic dividend profiles to implement policies to harness this dividend. Nevertheless, there is still limited understanding among countries on how the demographic dividend contributes to national development, leading to limited allocation of budgets. Without interventions, countries may miss the demographic dividend opportunities, hence the reference to the time bomb. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we need to be prepared to respond to hard questions on how discussions and meetings such as the Africa Job Creation Forum can be turned into tangible impacts to benefit the growing population. By 2023, the SDG Summit, and in 2024, the Summit of the Future, we must have clear ideas on the pathways and accelerators to create sustainable jobs in Africa and rescue the SDGs. I'm confident that the AE Trade Group's target for the continent to generate between 80 to 125 million jobs in the next 15 years can come to fruition if we work together in support of this critical course of action. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, distinguished program director, and thank you, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. All protocol is observed. Our task as the technical secretariat is to explain the concept behind this particular platform, because it is different from others. I think many of you may be thinking, we have been discussing about this issue for some time. What is different this time? So my job is to explain what it is that we want to achieve, what the partners have committed themselves to, and what outcomes we would expect, and to invite partners to come on board and join this very exciting initiative. First of all, I think that previous speakers have eloquently laid out the case for why we need to focus on jobs. And the concept that we are sharing with you today is one where we all agree that there's a need for a platform, not an event, a platform that continuously brings forth an opportunity for all stakeholders across the continent and beyond to work on pushing forward the addressing the challenges that we're facing on digitalization, on financial inclusion, on youth unemployment, identifying common challenges together, but most importantly, bringing innovative solutions forward and recognizing them. So very briefly, what is the main objective? The main objective is to have an annual platform, an event where we will be reflecting together on three main key specific objectives. One is sharing of experiences by AU member states, particularly on the policies that they have been working with, and looking at how these positive experiences can be shared and replicated and adapted to other countries, but also looking at how countries can also find unique partnerships in working together, perhaps on a regional configuration or in any other configuration that they wish. The second is networking, connecting and creating synergies between the various actors in the innovation, entrepreneurship, and job creation ecosystem in Africa. And here we're talking about business to business, business to government, civil society, everybody being involved to make sure that they are connected to each other. And thirdly, making linkages and matching between development partners and development programs. There will be an opportunity at this platform, for example, to pledge in advance what targets the institutions and the partners are setting for themselves for the coming year or for the coming 3 or 5 years. And this is going to be, I think, something very interesting because it gives an element of accountability, because at the subsequent meetings, we will then be reviewing and assessing the progress that has been made. What is the role of the Technical Secretariat? Our role is to ensure that we work together in bringing together all this information on a knowledge platform, which will be in the form of a website, but also making sure that we work throughout the year on programs and initiatives that would advance the job creation targets. So basically what we have set out for you from the 7th to the 9th of July for the inaugural one is an event that has multiple formats. So we have panel sessions, we have networking sessions, we have awards and recognition, we have exhibition opportunities, as well as showcases that you may have. What are the thematic areas? Very briefly, you've heard that many of the themes already spoken about today: human capital development, agribusiness value chain, job creation, arts, culture, heritage and jobs, climate change impact and jobs, tourism, hospitality, pharmaceutical, different sectors and their job creation potential. But we also want to make sure that the technology ecosystem, the hubs and the startups and the innovators also have a platform where they can showcase and present their ideas. So who is invited? Well, everybody is invited. This is the truth. But there are, of course, a specific request, especially to member states, that we would be honored if you could make sure that ministers of labor and employment, ministers responsible for gender, youth and integration, ministers responsible for finance, and because we're talking about digital and financial inclusion, the private sector, naturally, SME supporting organizations, and as well as the media. On this, I want to pause. Our Our target is that we would expect to reach up to 1,000 people who may attend physically the event, but online we have an ambitious target of 200 million people. How is this going to be possible? It will be possible if each and every member state brings their national media and is able to broadcast this event in their local languages back at the capital. We want an event for the first time where we connect directly with the people. That is what is also different about this event. And as I conclude, I want to say that the expected outcomes for this platform that is being launched and pre-launched today is to ensure that we have a consensus on the principles behind the job creation policy mix, including some recommendations that could be taken forth to different stakeholders. We also want to see the digital and financial inclusion ecosystem strengthened. I think my CEO will be making a presentation about a summit decision that touches on this. We also want collaboration amongst innovators, development partners, public and private sector, and other stakeholders. But mostly an integration of all these efforts. You know, we are all working hard, but often in silos. And what we want to do is to overcome that. But last but not least, where we believe a lot of the technical agencies, like the United Nations family, can bring to the table, will be to work with us to establish a monitoring and evaluation framework for jobs across the continent, so that we can have better data and analysis of what progress we're making year on year. On this note, I want to thank all the partners that have worked to build this concept with us, and I want to invite everybody to be part of the journey of implementation. I thank you.
Mr. Seyum is the CEO of A-Trade and is a tech leader with passion, resilience, and dedication to serve the continent. You're most welcome to give your remarks.
Thank you very much, distinguished moderator. Excellencies, distinguished guests, all protocol observed. Perhaps let me just start. Who is the A-Trade Group and how it is all started? The A-Trade Group is a diaspora-led initiative that has been working with the African Union. It is headquartered in Rwanda, Kigali, and the regional headquarters that has been establishing on Swatini for the Southern Africa, in Ethiopia for the Eastern Africa, Ghana for the Western Africa, North Africa, and Central Africa to be concluded. The AU Summit decision has accelerating digital and financial inclusions, working with all stakeholders. And the program that has been initiated so far in partnership with the African Union that we launched in 2020, the Sokuku.Africa, a marketplace. Let us get to know each other, who is producing what throughout the continent. And boosting intra-Africa trade to be enabling, giving an enabling environment for the ASEFTA. And that is one is that the digitalization is one of the fast tracking for growth and as well as also to boost intra-Africa trade as well as also to be part of the global trade. Digitalization is one of the elements that we support member states, and which is that less than 7 years from now, the global trade is going to be over 95% of global trade is going to be digital. For that, how every member state can be ready for that. And it's not just only digitalizations, but the knowledge. Trade is going to be more knowledge-based. It's no longer in the traditional way of that I can do these businesses. So how can we bring that enabling environment for small businesses where they can be able to know where is the surplus, where is the shortage, where is the demand and supply, and throughout the continent that they can be able to have that information. So for that, we provide an integrated approach where a number of items that can be provided. For example, the know-how to do business, changing the mindset to be competitive, changing the mindset aligning with their business plans. That is one. The second element is, of course, the marketplace itself. The third element is to be able to provide the affordable finance. And in that, we do have the value propositions for all stakeholders, and technology-based competency, and that focuses basically to focus MSMEs to trade and grow, create jobs in Africa. We are targeting to basically in the next 15 years to create between 80 to 125 million jobs. And with that, we have built a number of partners throughout the continent, affiliates throughout the continent. We cannot do this alone. And for that, right now, why July 7 has been chosen. And there is a number of milestones. In the last 5 years, a strategic partner with the African Union, what we have been achieved so far, that we wanted to showcase and demonstrate and launch. And we have a 3-year unwavering that we have been unveiling the Sokuku. Thousands of micro and small business has been registered in the platform that we wanted to showcase and testimony of what they have been benefiting the ordinary peoples at the grassroots level. And then also a year and a half since the AU Summit decisions last year in February, we got a digital and financial inclusion summit decision to operationalize. That is where we will be launching as well on July 7. And of course, the milestones on the theme of the year, accelerating the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Today, we pre-launched the implementation of the Smart Finance and Digital Banking, as well as also the Strategic Investment Alliance. To do all of those things and to support the small business in a most conducive way, we need to have an integrated ecosystem. Next page, please. And in this, as you can see, that the digital capacity building, which I mentioned, is also linking it, providing the training material called Changing the Mindset, and providing the marketplace Sokuku integrated with that. And then next to the affordable digital finance is where it builds first in the first session the KYC, the vetting process, all of those giving that enabling environment. And of course, today's that we are unveiling is the Strategic Investment Alliance to be able to provide affordable finance. We have been discussing in the last 20 years about financial inclusion, digital inclusion, but the question is, it's not just that is required access to finance, but affordable finance. And that has been really the missing link of, if we cannot be able to provide for micro and small business affordable finance, there is no way we can be able to eradicate extreme poverty. As simple as that. There is no way sustainable growth at the national level will be coming. So what that affordable finance for small business today, we have about $330 billion gap every single year. And how can we meet that gap? So for that, we have been working on the next page. We have been working first to galvanize a number of partners in here. We don't do it alone, but with all the national and regional private sectors and public organizations. And of course, a number of partners to facilitate either in the financial sectors or at the regional and continental partners. Next page. And what we did to provide this affordable finance is we need to build the global strategic investment alliance. And we have been discussing with a number of partners. Of course, we submitted this concept, how we can be able to build a strategic investment alliance framework in order to provide a pipeline for impact finance, sustainable finance, blended finance, all of those that within the alliance that we will be building, we work and we submit that to our board, and with the African Union and in partnership with the OECD, the research was made, and now we will be domesticating it in Kigali, Rwanda, in partnership with Kigali International. What does this pipeline is to not only to building the alliances, but also what we have promised to member states, and we get the summit decision last year in February, is the fastest actually implementation of such a summit decision that is coming. This is a testimony in a most practical way, not just only getting a summit decision, but actual the implementations. Working with all the relevant partners to engage and making the deliverable on a timely basis. So in July, we will be launching the Strategic Investment Alliance. We will be launching the Affordable Finance in that day. So this is basically in the nutshell where I am basically introducing and the sensitization of what is coming. For those who is in the industry of providing the organizations on financial inclusion and digital inclusion, we will be very happy to engage the detail of this initiative that's coming and to work together for a collective scalable impact to our continent. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seyum.
Good morning, Your Excellencies. Good morning, everybody. I just want to share what happened, how the creative industry of fashion on the continent started over 30 years ago, and how we got that started. It's been over 30 years. That is, in 1990, we came up with the idea of creating an indigenous or a fashion industry, that is inspired by Nigeria. We started by reorienting the Nigerian fashion industry players, the designers, to look inward to local fabrics and accessories, because we strongly believe the only way the industry can benefit from foreign exchange, that is in terms of export, is to create garments and accessories that are uniquely Nigerian. So we started by reorienting the Nigerian fashion designers to look inward to local fabrics, accessories, and designs. We also undertook a major campaign. We started reorienting Nigerians to wear Nigerian clothes, to patronize the local fashion industry. And we kick-started by introducing what we call the Nigeria Fashion Show. Then, the Nigeria Fashion Show, designers are only expected to use local fabrics and accessories. Then those that were to attend Nigeria Fashion Show, or those that are attending, you can only attend the event when you wear Nigerian clothes. So all the diplomats, all the business people, everybody that wanted to attend, they will contact us to say, okay, which designer do you think can make good stuff for us to wear? So that was good business for the designers themselves, So what Nigeria Fashion Show did is, over 3-4 years, it created streams of jobs, Before then, what I was doing then was fashion promotion. I didn't actually know what it was, until I started meeting my contemporaries around the world. What I created for the industry in Nigeria is fashion promotion, which today I'm happy to say, it has created a lot of job and businesses, for that area of the fashion industry, because you have a whole lot of different fashion events in Nigeria and across the continent. It also created jobs for models, for hairstylists, for creative directors, for clothes stylists, for makeup artists, for choreographers, for event producers and directors, for technicians, for light, sound, and stage, for dressers, for cutters, for pressers. The list is endless. Because at the end of a fashion show, for example, a whole lot of people are employed. A whole lot of people make whole lot of money from that process. But another thing it also did, because when we started taking Nigerian designers around the world, they actually started exporting their products and the rest of it. And we decided to scale up to the rest of the continent, and we introduced what we call the Africa Fashion Reception, where we bring entrepreneurs from all over the continent. Rewind a little bit. Nigeria fashion became popular all over the world because while we were pushing the fashion industry, making it popular and making it, serious business, my contemporaries at that time started Nollywood, and the others started the music industry. So my contemporaries, both in music and in Nollywood, they will come to me to say, please, can you get your designers to make clothes for the Nollywood stars, for the Nollywood actors? And that was how Nigeria fashion went global all over the world, so that the rest of the continent was taking inspiration from Nigeria, in the fashion industry. And when we started taking Nigerian designers, around the world, we started exporting. But most importantly, we had about 11 years ago, we started conversation with the African Union and UNESCO in Paris, and they wanted us to replicate the Nigerian success story to the rest of the continent. So we introduced what we call the Africa Fashion Reception, which was launched in Paris in 2013 at the UNESCO. And every year we have two events, one at the African Union and one in UNESCO in Paris, where we bring fashion entrepreneurs and fashion designers together to the African edition, which is usually at the African Union, and the global edition, which is usually at the UNESCO. And in the year 2021, when the AU declared that year of Art, Culture, and Heritage, we were asked to curate an event to capture that, and we introduced Africa Celebrates Art, Culture, Heritage, and Business, which comes up every October, at the African Union. I just want to say a big thank you to one of our patrons and one of those that have made it happen, Ambassador Albert Muchanga. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity of working with the African Union and also working, to make the creative industry serious business for the rest of the continent. I'm happy the creative industry is coming to light on the continent, because going back to history, after the Second World War, what brought industrialization to Europe is the textile garment and fashion industry that brought Europe back to industrialization. And what is bringing, or what has brought Asia to industrialization today also is this industry. After government, this is the industry that employs more people around the world. So I am saying fashion and all the other part of the creative industry can make a lot of difference when it comes to creating jobs on the continent. We call it the informal sector, but it is high time we make it a formal sector. Thanks very, very much.
Thank you very much, and greetings to all of the high dignitaries and everyone participating. For those who don't know me, I'm Jean-Paul Adam, and I'm the Director for Technology, Climate Change, and Natural Resources at ECA. And I think that the focus in particular on job creation through digital transformations and also through sustainable investments, I think is one of the most critical aspects for us to be able to achieve climate resilience across the continent. And I just wanted to make the comment that we, from the partners that are already engaged in this initiative, we should also be looking at the type of investments that will contribute towards the type of green transformation that we want to see on the continent. And by the way, a lot of the studies that ECA have done have shown that the right form of investment in these sustainable value chains will deliver actually a higher number of jobs as compared to the status quo. We know there are certain African countries, I will not mention names, but they may have 80% of their GDP coming from the oil sector, for example, but less than 1% of employment. Now, if we deliver value chains, for example, in the agricultural sector, or even in when we are looking at investing in renewable energy, that we look truly at the value chain, so the production of the materials that will be used in this energy sector, we will achieve the acceleration in terms of job creation that is needed for us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So I wanted to make a concrete proposal that we look in terms of this initiative on how we can present some of its outcomes at the Africa Climate Summit, which will be happening in Nairobi from the 4th to the 6th of September. And this, of course, looks ahead towards COP28 which is happening in the United Arab Emirates, and that we can come with concrete ideas on specific investments led by Africa's private sector, and show clearly as well how this will link in terms of job creation. So just a suggestion along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Alexi Omsindo. I'm the director of the ILO here in Ethiopia and also representative to the AU. Just a few comments on my side. One, to welcome the proposal quite so much. I think you saw my regional director also made comments to your video. Much welcome. Just wanted to put a few things. One, it's if we look at the continent and ILO studies, you cannot afford to be unemployed in Africa, given our relatively poor social protection system. So we find that people are working, but one of the things that needs to be addressed is the quality of the jobs and the productivity element that comes with it. And here mainly, we know that in most countries, plus 80% of the people are in the informal economy. So how do we link this with the informal economy where the majority of the workers are? So I think it's a question of looking at both the quantity of the jobs to be created, but also the quality that comes with those jobs. And related to that, it's also the question as to where does the money come from in Africa. And again, appreciating Ambassador Muchanga, that last year at the STC for Ministers of Finance, there was a discussion on macroeconomic policies and jobs based on a study that the ILO jointly did with the African Union. So this call to have Ministers of Finance, I think, comes to be critical because it's how the money moves where the jobs are going to follow. And then just putting again with the AU on the jobs, arts and creative industry. I think just last week we were together at the STC where again ILO did a study that was adopted at the STC for Youth and Culture, which focused on jobs in the culture and creative, in the arts, culture and creative sector. So I think it's something that we can put for discussion in July, and also a program that was discussed by the ministers responsible for culture. Last point I just wanted to put is on your who is invited. Yes, you said all, but I think it is important to highlight the issue around the young people. If we are talking about jobs creation for the youth and for the young people, when we put the list on who is to be invited, we need to find ways to have meaningful engagement with them. And finally, of course, on the quality, the trade unions, I think it's worth also considering them in terms of addressing the quality of the jobs. Let me stop here for now, and thanks for having ILO as a partner.
Thank you very much, Excellencies. All protocol observed. Actually, our ES acting mentioned the potential of digital trade. Digital trade today, it's estimated to be $180 billion in 2025. ECA working with Afrexim Bank, the African Union Commissions, and also the FFCA Secretariats has been developing the Africa Trade Exchange Platform, which is supposed to be the digital marketplace. We are in the phase of onboarding companies from and across Africa. It's a B2B, but a B2G platforms in order to help countries kick off the trade, the inter-African trade. So here there is a bridge that needs to be harnessed in the sense that this work on job creations can be the interface within which we can kick off the ATEX, the Africa Trade Exchange platforms, actually broadcasting about the ATEX, the existence of the ATEX, but also helping small and medium-sized enterprises, business-owned firms to be onboarded through the ATEX. Connecting the initiative is very important in order to promote the Made in Africa. Thank you.
Ms. Rose Rono, representing Dr. Stephen Karingi, Director RITD ECA. My contribution was on what Wafa had mentioned, maybe just to add on to that, a possibility of having a panel discussion in the event that is coming up, focusing on ATEX, so that we can be able to maybe even explain it better and find ways that we can be able to collaborate between ATEX and this A platform. Thank you.
the previous speakers did that, But I would like to put emphasis on a couple of things. One, it was mentioned earlier, the need for appropriate policies and strategies to catalyze job creation. So from our perspective as a multilateral organization specializing in industrial development, we fully agree with that. And I think those strategies and policies need to focus on the low-hanging fruits. Those are the ones we can reap easily and quickly, creating jobs and considering the time, the pressure we have with huge youth unemployment. So one is my point. One of my points is that one. The other is we have already showcases in place. So we don't need to start from scratch. For example, from our experience in Ethiopia, UNIDO, in partnership with the government, has been able to establish a creative hub, which was a couple of months ago visited by the Deputy UN Secretary General, Amina Mohammed. And now we are working with the government to scale up this creative hub. This is a hub where young people meet and discuss on fashion trends, discuss on product development, and the project was a blended version of a project. The soft skill training, combined with provision of the necessary machines and laboratory equipment. So now, if you have time, our guest is from abroad. We are ready to facilitate the visit, to the hub. It's a very exemplary hub. It is attached to the Ethiopian Enterprise Development, an agency with which we have been working for several years now. And again, another showcase, can be our experience in establishment of TVETs. So His Excellency, his presence here, he's in charge of TVETs in this country. We, as UNIDO, have been able to establish TVETs. Now, for heavy truck drivers, but we are planning to expand that to one of our flagship program of establishment of integrated agro-industrial parks. So you can imagine we are working on 3 integrated agro-industrial parks. We are hoping to create jobs for more than 200,000 youth, so in the near future. So we have already good experience on the ground, so we need to really build on that instead of starting from scratch. And again, the policy issue is also very important to enable us to reap the low-hanging fruits. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pauline Magawi. I am a Sustainable Development Officer at UNDCO Regional Office here in Addis. So I think one thing that I'm not really hearing much of is the integrated nature of job creation, climate change, conflict, and so on. If you look at a number of countries in Africa, majority are facing conflicts, and this has an impact even just on job creation, the kind of businesses that the youth are involved in. For example, in my country, Kenya, whenever there's a demonstration, the youth suffer given that they're not able to do their businesses. So I think as we explore these and the plans that we have ahead, we need to see how best to bring the other partners to the table so that we can address the multifaceted impact of some of these issues that our continent is grappling with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator, and I greet everybody in this room and right on the salutations that were made at the beginning of the meeting, and emphasize the fact that we are honored to have the State Minister from the Ministry of Labor and Skills here with us. And I think we have listened very, very, very closely and attentively, and rich inputs have been made into the work that is at hand. So the colleagues here who developed the concept paper should be able to really bring all those ideas and try to see if we can operationalize them. The issue of job creation is a huge task. When you look at the critical challenges of African economies, in a majority of them, the number one challenge is youth unemployment. So virtually each and every African country has a huge challenge of creating decent jobs. And the number two challenge is inequality. Not everybody is benefiting from the process of growth and sustainable development going on in Africa. And these two, it has been highlighted in this meeting, are a bomb that can really explode at any time. And if we have to create the jobs, I think it has been demonstrated in this meeting that a vision can be realized. We heard from Lex Mojo that 30 years ago, there was nothing called the Nigerian fashion industry. And today, it is being celebrated all over the world. And today, we are decrying the fact that there is unemployment, there is an inequality, and it's a time bomb. But with vision, that can be transformed in the near future. If we have a strategic focus, if we work with the zeal, if we collaborate, if we measure achievements and setbacks at each stage. Measurement here is very, very key. Let us really generate statistics on how many jobs are created each year, country by country, sector by sector. This will be very, very, very important for policy making. There's a huge ambition to generate 80 million to 125 million jobs. Now, when we say we have committed it to action, we are folding our shirts to work very hard. At the end of 1 year, let's look back and say, what have we achieved? If we do not measure, I think it would be very, very, very difficult to point out results. There must be results that have substance and that cannot be challenged to say, yes, you have tried more or less to come up with the figures. No, there should be results that cannot be challenged. It's very, very, very important. The issue of access to affordable finance has been highlighted and is very, very key. I did not hear contributions from member states. And it would have been very, very important in this meeting to hear contributions from member states. It's the obligation of each and every country across Africa to come up with arrangements for affordable to access finance, without which there will be no progress. There was an emphasis on the digital technology that is emerging. Behind that is the need for us to establish technology startups across Africa. And to do that, there should be finances. A young person can come up with a good job, an idea, not a job. And if there's no support, that young person can sell his idea, some for as low as $25,000, others for as much as $21 million, others maybe for $300 million. But if we had financial instruments across Africa, where that idea, when it has been really transformed into a project, you promote initial public offerings, where the company is floated on the stock market. It can emerge as a billion-dollar industry, and everyone benefits, including in the sphere of job creation. So access to jobs is very, very important. Skills development has been mentioned. I totally agree. But it should be promote employability. ILO are here, UNDP are here. They know a lot about employability. Out there across Africa, we get a lot of young people, some high school, some with first degree, others with masters, others with PhD, but their skills are not required by industry. So the issue of employability comes in. And in this respect, when we move towards the job forum, I think let us bring in the participation of the private sector. And we can mobilize the African Business Council to bring in the private sector. Let us engage them. Let us tell us the skills they need to employ our youth. Let us have them tell us the investments they'll commit to ensure that they come up with investments that generate jobs across Africa. The African Union and ourselves have a long-standing strategic collaborative framework with the Africa E-Trade Group, and we'll continue that collaboration. We just signed a new memorandum of understanding, and as we go towards the job forum, we'll continue to do so. In fact, the meeting we have today was supposed to go to the assembly this year, but unfortunately, the Specialized Technical Committee at ministerial level of Finance, Monetary Affairs, Economic Planning, and Integration did not meet in October last year. So the decision is pending as it's going to go to the July meeting of the Specialized Technical Committee. This is very, very important because when it goes through the police organs, then it means that it has the full support of the policymakers. And since the idea is to make it an annual forum, and it's called the Africa Job Creation Forum, each and every member state must be involved. So we work together to ensure that it is fully reflected in the decisions. And the ILO indicated the submission they made, and that will be part of the work as we go along. At the level of African Union, let me mention 3 programs that we are working on, which have the potential to generate jobs. One of them is a study on key actions to achieve inclusive growth and sustainable development across Africa. We're undertaking this study in collaboration with the African Development Bank and AUDA NEPAD. Behind that study is to position each and every African country to grow at rates of 7 to 10% between now and 2063. It's not impossible. One, some of our countries, including Ethiopia, have already generated growth rates of 7 to 10%. But the only problem is that there are very few of them. We want a majority of African countries to be at that level. And two, Africa is a low-income region, so it's possible to generate those high levels of economic growth. But we need massive investments. Our experts tell us that for us to generate 7 to 10% annual growth rates, we need to move away from the current level of 20% of GDP devoted to investments in Africa to 40%. That's going to require huge capital, and hence the importance of the private sector again. And if we generate those huge investments, I think jobs are going to come along, because part of that is going to be devoted to human capital development, and back to the issue of employability. Another key study is on export development and diversification. Africa has traditionally been a producer and exporter of raw materials. And the result is that progressively we have seen our share of global trade going down. In the 70s, it was around 6%. As I'm talking to you now, it's about 2.7%. In order to increase that share of global trade, we need to move away from raw materials to manufacturing and agro-processing, as well as skills development. If you look at Africa's export of labor right now, it is at two levels. We have highly qualified Africans who have decided to work abroad because there are no supporting institutions across Africa. It came out during the COVID-19 that some of the researchers, scientists who contributed in developing the vaccines in fighting the COVID were from Africa. And why were they working there? Because there were research laboratories there. And we don't have research laboratories in Africa. And then we've got some of our unqualified, untrained laborers who end up as maids in other parts of the world, where we have heard stories of human trafficking, abuse, working without pay. Now, if we come up with a dedicated program of human capital development, even the maids can be skilled workers, they can be expatriates, and they can get value for their money. So the issue of diversification, trade in services, including human capital development, becomes very, very much important in this regard. Another key program we are working on, and we are doing this in collaboration with the ECA, is readiness assessment towards the African Customs Union. This is very, very important. If we create an integrated capital market with high levels of investment, then it will be possible to promote free movement of people across Africa. Where there's demand for labor, it's possible for people to go and settle in other countries. Where there's unemployment and inequality, if people try to move into those countries, there will be attacks against them, xenophobia. So we are working on that study to see if we can use it to promote implementation of the protocol on free movement of people, right of residence, and right of establishment, in addition to creating an integrated African market. Let me end by the reference to the Africa Trade Exchange Platform, which has been mentioned here. I've talked to Dr. Stephen Karingi, and I've also talked to Professor Orama at the African Export-Import Bank, that so far, this program has not been brought to the attention of the Specialized Technical Committee of Ministers of Trade, Tourism, Industry, and Minerals. It is very, very important to get policy buy-in before it can become a fully fledged component of the African Union programs. I think there were rich presentations and rich exchange of views. And again, I would have been very, very happy to hear the voices of member states. Perhaps we may have to do another platform to bring them on board. And we also need to bring on board the private sector. I end here. Thank you for attention and reaffirm our commitment to work with the African Union Commission, the government of Ethiopia, the Africa E-Trade Group, and other partners to ensure that we've got a very successful job creation summit. And 7th July is of critical importance. It's Africa Integration Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Mchanga, for your closing remarks, which also came with action points. I think A-Trade, you got your takeaways, and UNECA. And thank you very much.